Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. My wife's friends dared her to test my fidelity for 48 hours, and by the next morning, she was begging them to stop. But they weren't testing a husband. They were testing themselves. Let me explain how 3 women learned the hardest way that when you measure someone else, you better hope your own numbers add up. It started on a Friday night in late April. Kelly had invited her 3 gym friends over for dinner. Nothing unusual about that. What was unusual was the way they kept whispering and glancing at me throughout the meal like sharks circling prey. I'm Brian Mitchell, and I assess risk for a living. I analyze patterns, identify threats, and predict outcomes for Fortune 500 companies. It's what I do. So when these 3 women sat at my dining room table practically vibrating with excitement about whatever scheme they'd cooked up, I knew something was coming. Colleen Bradford was the ringleader. 41, divorced twice, currently on husband number 3. She had that particular smugness that comes from someone who thinks they've figured out all of life's patterns. Next to her sat Diana Pearson, 39, nervous energy personified, constantly checking her phone like she was waiting for bad news. And then Melissa Wright, 34, single after a bitter divorce 2 years ago, with that cynical edge in her voice that suggested she'd given up on happiness somewhere along the way. These weren't Kelly's college friends or childhood buddies. These were newer additions to her life, women she'd met at the gym over the past 3 months. Women who seemed to thrive on drama and other people's misery. After dinner, while I was loading the dishwasher, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around to find all 4 women standing there with expressions that ranged from nervous to smug. Kelly looked uncomfortable, but her friends looked like they were about to win the lottery. "We need to discuss something important about your marriage," Colleen announced, crossing her arms. I dried my hands slowly, giving myself time to process. "I'm listening." "We're concerned about Kelly," she continued. "We've seen too many good women married to men who cheat. So we've proposed a little test." Kelly shifted uncomfortably beside her friends. "They think we should test your loyalty for 48 hours. Starting tonight." I looked at each of them carefully. Pattern recognition is my specialty. Colleen's body language screamed projection. Diana's anxiety was almost palpable. Melissa's defensiveness suggested she was protecting something. "A loyalty test," I repeated flatly. "And what exactly does this test involve?" Diana stepped forward. "We're going to put you in situations where most men would fail. Attractive women, opportunities, temptations. Real-world scenarios." "And if I pass?" I asked. Melissa smirked. "Then Kelly will know she married a good one. Though I doubt that outcome." I could see Kelly wanted to crawl under the table. She knew me well enough to recognize the warning signs when I was getting irritated. The slight tension in my jaw, the way I was standing perfectly still. But her friends were too busy congratulating themselves on their brilliant plan to notice. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice calm and measured. "You want to test me? Fine. But understand this. I don't fail tests. I've never failed a test in my life, and I'm not starting now." The confidence in my voice seemed to catch them off guard. They'd clearly expected me to object, to argue, maybe even to refuse outright. "We'll see about that," Colleen said, though she didn't sound quite as confident as before. "Yes, you will," I replied. "But let me be crystal clear about something. If you're testing my loyalty, then I'm evaluating yours too. Your loyalty to your own marriages, your loyalty as friends, your loyalty to basic decency." The room got quiet fast. Kelly was staring at me with wide eyes, probably wondering where this was heading. Her friends were exchanging glances, suddenly realizing they might have bitten off more than they could chew. "What's that supposed to mean?" Colleen asked. "It means that if you want to put me under a microscope, you better make sure your own lives can handle the same scrutiny. Because trust me, ladies, I pay attention. I see things. And if we're talking about loyalty and faithfulness, well, I let that hang in the air for a moment. Let's just say glass houses and stones." The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. I could see the wheels turning in their heads, each one probably running through their recent activities, wondering what I might know or suspect. "We're not the ones being tested here," Colleen said, but her voice had lost its earlier authority. "No? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like 3 women who spend their Friday nights plotting against their friend's marriage instead of working on their own relationships. That tells me everything I need to know about your priorities." Kelly finally found her voice. Maybe we should think about this more. No. I interrupted gently but firmly. They want their test. They'll get it. 48 hours starting now. But here's what they didn't count on. I'm not some insecure husband who's going to panic under pressure. I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to crack. And I'm certainly not going to give you the satisfaction of proving whatever point you think you're making. I walked over to where they were standing and looked each one directly in the eyes. What I am going to do is show you exactly what a loyal husband looks like. And more importantly, I'm going to show you what happens when you mess with the wrong man's marriage. The smugness had completely drained from their faces. They'd come here expecting to expose me as a cheater, to rescue their friend from a bad marriage. Instead, they were standing in my kitchen, realizing they'd just challenged someone who was several steps ahead of them. The clock starts now, I said, checking my watch. 48 hours. Don't disappoint me, ladies. I have high expectations for this little experiment of yours. As they filed out of my kitchen, I could hear them whispering frantically among themselves. Good. Let them worry. Let them second-guess their plan. Because what they didn't know yet was that I'd been watching them for months, collecting information, understanding their patterns. They wanted to test me. Perfect. But they were about to learn that when you test a man who's always 3 moves ahead, you better be prepared for the consequences. After the door closed behind them, Kelly turned to me. What did you mean you've been watching them? Exactly what I said. I took her hand. These women appeared in your life 3 months ago. Suddenly. All at once. All with the same complaints about men, about marriages, about life. That's a pattern. And I assess patterns for a living. You investigated my friends? I investigated strangers who became close to my wife very quickly. Old habits from work. I pulled her close. And what I found concerns me. A lot. What did you find? You'll see. Over the next 48 hours, you'll see exactly who your friends really are. Kelly looked worried. Brian, what are you planning? Nothing. I'm just going to let them show you who they've been all along. I kissed her forehead. Trust me on this one. By Sunday night, you're going to know exactly who your real friends are. She went to bed troubled, but I had work to do. I went to my home office and pulled out 3 folders I'd been building for the past 3 months. Professional habit. When new people enter my wife's life and start influencing her decisions, I do my homework. Colleen's folder was thick. Marriage records showed 2 divorces. The second one had gotten messy. Court documents revealed her ex-husband had accused her of stealing $25,000 from his business account. The case was settled, not dismissed. Settlement documents showed she'd paid back $18,000. Then there were the photos. Colleen entering an apartment building in Broad Ripple at 6:15 in the morning. Same building where Jeremy Cole lived. Jeremy Cole, 29, personal trainer at LA Fitness. The same gym where Colleen claimed to attend early morning cycling classes. Except the gym cycling classes were only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Colleen visited Jeremy's building on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Diana's folder told a different story. Court records showed a judgment against her from an offshore debt collector. The kind of debt collectors that work with online gambling sites. Property records showed she'd taken out a home equity line of credit 8 months ago. Her daughter's 529 college fund, which should have had $34,000 after 10 years of contributions, now showed a balance of $6,000 according to financial disclosures in the debt collection case. The withdrawals matched the timing of the home equity loan. I'd also observed her twice at the casino boat on the Ohio River. Both times on weekday afternoons when she'd told Kelly she was at work. Melissa's folder was the most concerning. Her prescribing doctor, a Raymond Hibbert, was currently under investigation by the Indiana Medical Board. Public records showed he'd prescribed her Xanax. So had Lisa Patterson and Ahmad Khalid. 3 different doctors, same medication, same time frame. Her Venmo account was public, and the transaction history was telling. 127 payments over the past year, all between $40 and $60. All from people aged 19 to 24, all with vague descriptions or just emojis. The pattern was clear. I spent the night organizing everything, making copies, preparing documentation. By 6 in the morning, I had 3 complete dossiers with backup copies. Every piece of information sourced from public records, court documents, or direct observation. Everything legal. Everything verifiable. I grabbed an hour of sleep and a quick shower. At 7, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mesh on Massachusetts, 8:30. Come alone. I smiled. Let the games begin. Kelly was still asleep when I got dressed. I left her a note. First challenge. Back soon. Love you. Mesh on Mass Avenue is an upscale restaurant in downtown Indianapolis. Nice place for brunch. Also the perfect place for a honey trap if you're uncreative and desperate. I arrived at 8. 40 minutes early. Professional habit. I parked across the street where I had a clear view of the entrance. At 8:15, Colleen arrived. At 8:20, a young blonde woman showed up. They met near the entrance. I took photos as money changed hands. $200 cash. They talked for 5 minutes. Colleen gesturing, the woman nodding. Amateur hour. At 8:25, they separated. The blonde went inside and positioned herself at the bar. Colleen took a corner booth with a clear view of the bar area. She pulled out her phone. Camera ready. I waited until 8:30 exactly, then walked in. But instead of going to the bar, I walked directly to Colleen's booth and sat down across from her. She nearly choked on her coffee. Really? I said. This is your opening move? A honey trap at 8:30 in the morning? I'm honestly disappointed. You're supposed to be at the bar, she managed to say. Why would I do that when the real show is happening over here? I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo. Colleen handing cash to the blonde. Timestamp visible. Let me guess. She approaches me, buys me a drink, tries to get my number, maybe suggests we go somewhere more private. You take pictures, show them to Kelly, declare me a cheater. Did I miss anything? Her face went red. It's not that simple. No, it's exactly that simple, and it's insulting. I signaled the waitress. Coffee. Black. And whatever my friend here is having. She's going to need it. The blonde at the bar kept glancing over, clearly confused about why her target was sitting with the woman who had hired her instead of taking the bait. You know what your problem is? I continued. You think like someone who cheats. You assume everyone operates the way you do. But I don't. I don't cheat, she snapped. Right. Tell me, how's Jeremy doing? The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might pass out. How did you? Jeremy Cole, your personal trainer, lives on Winthrop Avenue in Broad Ripple. You visit his apartment 3 mornings a week when your husband thinks you're at cycling class. I pulled out my phone and showed her another photo. Colleen entering the apartment building. Want to see the other 4 times I documented? She stared at me like I'd just performed magic. You can't prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. Your husband Carl will figure it out when he sees these photos. Along with your gym schedule showing that cycling class is only Tuesday and Thursday. I leaned back. But let's talk about your second divorce. The one where you stole $25,000 from your husband's business account. That was dismissed. No, that was settled. You paid back $18,000. I have the court records. I pulled out a printout and slid it across the table. Settlement agreement. Filed with Marion County Superior Court. Public record. Colleen was gripping her coffee cup so hard I thought it might shatter. What do you want? I want you to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't some regular suburban husband you can manipulate and destroy. I'm the guy who notices when things don't add up. I'm the guy who remembers details. And I'm definitely the guy who doesn't appreciate anyone trying to sabotage my marriage. The blonde finally gave up and left, shooting confused glances at our table. Your test is already backfiring, I pointed out. Because while you're focused on trying to make me look bad, I'm busy exposing what you really are. Question is, do you want to stop this now, or should I keep going? She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. We're not stopping anything. Good. Because I'm just getting started. I stood up and dropped the 20 on the table. By the way, you might want to call Jeremy. Tell him to be careful. His girlfriend might be getting some interesting information soon. Her mouth fell open. You didn't. I told you. I don't fail tests, but I do conduct them. I leaned down closer. Next time you want to set a trap, make sure you're not standing in one yourself. I left her sitting there, probably calling Jeremy frantically. Outside, I texted Kelly. First challenge completed. Your friends are learning some hard lessons about preparation. Her response came back immediately. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. But you might want to ask your friends how their morning went. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing with angry texts from all 3 of them. Threats, accusations, demands that I stop whatever I was doing. But what really told me everything I needed to know was what they weren't saying. Not one of them denied what I'd accused them of. Not one of them claimed I was lying. They were scrambling, trying to figure out what else I knew, what other evidence I might have. And that panic? That was just the beginning. Kelly was waiting in the kitchen when I walked in. They called me. All three of them. They're furious. I bet they are. They said you were being hostile and threatening them. Hostile? I laughed. I haven't even started being hostile yet. Right now, I'm just being thorough. What does that mean? It means your friends picked a fight with someone who actually knows how to fight back, and they're realizing they're outmatched. I showed her the photos from this morning. This is what they tried to do. Kelly stared at the images of Colleen paying the woman, the stage setup. Her face went pale. Brian, I want this to stop. I called them. I told them to end this test. It's gone too far. What did they say? Colleen said no. She said they're just getting started. She said you're the one who needs to be exposed. Kelly's voice shook. I begged her. I told her I trust you, and this was a mistake. She laughed at me. She pulled out her phone, her hands trembling. And then Diana sent me these by accident. She meant to send them to their group chat, but sent them to me instead. She showed me screenshots. Messages from their private chat. Colleen's text. Kelly's so naive. This will be fun to watch. Melissa's reply. She has no idea what's coming. I pulled her close. Then they've made their choice. They want to escalate things this afternoon. They already sent another location. 2 o'clock. Eagle Creek Park. Kelly looked worried. Should we go? Absolutely. I want you to see this. I took her hand. Trust me on this one. By tonight, you're going to know exactly who your real friends are. What she didn't know yet was that I'd already made some calls of my own. Her friends thought they were controlling this test. But they were about to discover that the real test had just begun. At 1:30, Kelly and I drove to Eagle Creek Park. It's a large park on the northwest side of Indianapolis, with trails around the reservoir and plenty of wooded areas. Perfect for a staged encounter. I parked where we could observe the main trailhead near the marina. At 1:45, Diana arrived. She looked nervous, checking her phone every few seconds. At 1:50, a young woman in running clothes showed up. More money changed hands. Diana was practically shaking as she briefed the woman. Is she hiring someone again? Kelly asked from the passenger seat. Second time's the charm, I said. Watch. At 2 o'clock, I got out of the car. Kelly stayed behind, watching. I started down the main trail. Right on cue, the jogger came around the bend, moving fast. She accidentally collided with me, her water bottle spraying everywhere. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, she exclaimed, water soaking my shirt. Don't worry about it, I said calmly. Let me at least get you something to dry off. My car's right there. She pointed to the parking lot. No need. I gestured back toward my car, where Kelly was getting out with a towel. My wife has everything I need. The jogger's face fell. She glanced toward Diana's location, clearly unsure what to do now that the script had fallen apart. Kelly and I walked directly to where Diana sat at a picnic table, trying to look casual. Going somewhere? I asked as Diana started to gather her things. I was just leaving. Sit down, Diana. Let's talk about odds. She sat, but wouldn't meet my eyes. You know what the odds are of winning on offshore gambling sites? I asked conversationally. About the same as your odds of keeping your daughter. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out printouts from my folder. Gulf Coast Gaming. Caribbean Casino Online. Paradise Poker. $28,000 in losses over 14 months. Diana went pale. How did you? Court judgment. Public record. The debt collector sued you 6 months ago. I showed her the document. Filed in Marion County. Case number right here. Kelly had gone very quiet beside me. But that's not the interesting part, I continued. The interesting part is where the money came from. I showed another document. Your 10-year-old daughter Lily's 529 college fund. $34,000 when she was born. Balance today? $6,000. Diana started crying. Please. Your husband Tom doesn't know, does he? I said gently. I can see it in your face. He thinks that money is safe for Lily's future. Please don't tell him. I don't have to tell him. Your gambling sites will. They've been subpoenaed for discovery in the debt collection case. Those records become public next week. Kelly's voice was quiet but firm. Diana, you spent your daughter's college fund. Diana was sobbing now. It's an addiction. I couldn't stop. I kept thinking I'd win it back. Then get help, I said. But don't project your failures onto other people's marriages. You wanted to test my integrity while you've been lying to your husband for over a year. You've been stealing from your daughter's future. And you thought you had the moral authority to judge me? Kelly's hand found mine. Let's go. As we walked away, Kelly's arm linked with mine. First time since this whole thing started that she'd physically shown she was on my side. In the car, she was quiet for a long moment. Then, how did you find all this? Court records. Pacer database. I search these for work all the time. It's public information. What about Melissa? She's the worst of the three, I said. And they're not done yet. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. Colleen, you've made your point. Let's end this. I showed the text to Kelly, then typed back. No, you set 48 hours. We're at 19. I'm just getting started. At 6 that evening, another text came through. This time, it was a group message to both Kelly and me. The Rotskeller. 7 p.m. All four of us. End this. They want a meeting, Kelly said. Good. Time to finish this. I pulled out my laptop and started printing documents. Final preparations. Kelly watched me work. What are you going to do? Give them one last chance to walk away. And if they don't, then I show them what real consequences look like. At 6:45, we drove downtown to the Rotskeller, a German restaurant in the Athenaeum building. The place has been around since the 1890s, all brick and dark wood, with a beer garden out back. Historic. Substantial. The perfect place for a final confrontation. Colleen, Diana, and Melissa were already seated at a back table when we arrived. All three looked like they'd been through hell. Colleen's eyes were red from crying. Diana was shaking. Melissa looked angry but scared. Kelly and I sat down across from them. United front. This needs to stop, Colleen said immediately. You've proven your point. No, I replied calmly. I've proven my point. You haven't proven anything about me. Melissa leaned forward. You're destroying people's lives. I'm revealing what you've been hiding. Big difference. Diana's voice was barely a whisper. I'll get help. I'll tell Tom. Just please stop. Good. You should do those things. But not because I'm making you. Because it's right. I looked at each of them. Whether others find out is up to you now. So you'll stop? Diana asked hopefully. I'll stop revealing what I know. What happens next is between you and the people you've been lying to. Melissa crossed her arms. You have nothing on me. Really? Want to test that? Go ahead. I pulled out my folder. Dr. Raymond Hibbert, Dr. Lisa Patterson, Dr. Ahmad Khalid. 3 doctors, 3 separate prescriptions for Xanax, same time frame. Melissa went very still. 90 pills per month from each doctor. That's 270 pills. You don't need 270 pills for personal anxiety. I showed the medical board complaints. They're all under investigation. When investigators look at their prescribing patterns, they'll find you got prescriptions from all 3 simultaneously. You can't prove I did anything with them, she said, but her voice was weak. Venmo is searchable when your account is public. Which yours is? I showed transaction screenshots. 127 transactions in the past year. All between $40 and $60. All from people aged 19 to 24. All with vague descriptions. Thanks. Dinner. Emoji only. Kelly's voice cut through. You're dealing drugs? It's just anxiety medication. Melissa snapped. People need it. It's a Schedule 4 controlled substance, I said. Distribution is a felony. Indiana Code 354846. Up to 3 years. The table went silent. All 3 women looking at each other, realizing how much I knew. How thoroughly I'd documented everything. What do you want? Colleen asked. For you to understand what you did. You came into my home, looked me in the eye, and tried to destroy my marriage while your own lives were disasters. You had no right. Kelly pulled out her phone. I trusted you. All of you. And you were just using me. She showed them her screen. Screenshots of a group chat she'd never been included in. You were laughing at me. Colleen tried to respond, but Kelly kept reading. Kelly's so naive. This will be fun to watch. She looked up, hurt in her eyes. My marriage was fun for you. Diana was crying again. Melissa stared at the table. Colleen had no words. Here's what happens next, I said. You leave Kelly alone. Forever. You deal with your own problems. And we pretend this test never happened. And if we agree? Colleen asked. Then what I know stays between us. I don't call your husbands. I don't call the pharmacy board. I don't send evidence to anyone. You're blackmailing us, Melissa said. No. I'm offering you privacy in exchange for staying out of our lives. That's called a boundary. Colleen's jaw tightened. You don't scare me. This isn't over. I stood up. Then let me make this very clear. You have until midnight tonight to text me that you're done, that you'll leave us alone permanently. If I don't hear from you by midnight, everything I have, every photo, every document, every piece of evidence, goes to the people who need to see it. Your husbands, the pharmacy board, everyone." The color drained from all three faces. "Midnight," I repeated. "That's your deadline." I looked at Kelly. "Ready?" She stood beside me. We walked out together, leaving three women sitting in stunned silence. In the car, Kelly was quiet. "Then, did you really set things in motion? The emails, the evidence to their husbands?" "I prepared information. I created systems. If they'd agreed to leave us alone, I would have stopped it." I looked at her. They didn't agree. Colleen refused. She made her choice. What happens now? Now they live with their choices. That night, I'd set up automated systems earlier in the week. Not because I'm vindictive, but because I'm thorough. I'd given them the midnight deadline at the Rotskeller, and I meant it. They didn't text. Instead, Colleen sent a message at 11:30. "This isn't over." That was all the answer I needed. At 1:15 in the morning, Jeremy Cole's girlfriend received an email. Photos attached. Sent from an anonymous account. I'd found her email on her public Instagram bio weeks ago. At 2:30, a package was left on Tom Pearson's doorstep. Court documents about the gambling judgment. Bank statements showing the college fund withdrawals. His address came from public voter registration records. The Indiana Pharmacy Board had received an electronic complaint on Friday afternoon, before the test even started. Venmo screenshots attached. 3 doctor names listed. Standard mandatory reporting. By Saturday morning, they'd already contacted Melissa and her employer. I didn't sleep well. Kelly tossed and turned beside me. At 6 in the morning, my phone started buzzing. "Colleen, please make it stop." "Diana, Tom found the papers. He's taking Lily. Please." "Melissa, the board is demanding I meet with them Monday. You've destroyed my life." I showed the messages to Kelly. "Did you send those things?" she asked. I gave them a choice. I told Colleen last night that if they backed down by midnight, nothing would happen. She said this wasn't over. I set my phone down. They made their choice. Kelly was processing. But their families are better off knowing the truth. Would you want to stay married to someone cheating on you? Would you want your daughter's college fund stolen while you thought it was safe? I took her hand. I didn't create these problems. I just made sure they couldn't hide them anymore. Sunday morning arrived heavy with consequences. At 9 o'clock, our doorbell started ringing. Insistent, desperate. All 3 of them stood on our porch. Disheveled, broken. Kelly let them in. They crowded into our living room, talking over each other. Jeremy's girlfriend showed up at my house around 2 in the morning. Colleen sobbed, screaming at me in front of Carl. He called his lawyer first thing this morning. Divorce papers are being filed Monday. Diana was shaking. Tom found everything. He's taking Lily. Custody hearing is Tuesday. I can't lose my daughter. Melissa's voice was sharp with panic. The pharmacy board contacted me Friday afternoon. My boss fired me Saturday morning. Security walked me out. And now the board called again this morning, demanding I come in for an interview Monday. I walked in from the kitchen, coffee in hand. And, "This is your fault," Melissa shouted. "No, this is your fault. All of it." I sat down calmly. "You tested me. You wanted to prove I was a cheater, a liar, unworthy of my wife. But you were the cheaters. You were the liars. We made a mistake," Diana pleaded. "No, conducting this test was a mistake. What I exposed, those weren't mistakes. Those were choices, patterns, behaviors you repeated over and over while judging everyone else." Kelly's voice was steady. "You were supposed to be my friends. We were trying to protect you," Colleen insisted. "No, you were trying to prove that everyone else is as broken as you are. Because if Brian failed, it would validate your paranoia. It would mean your husband's probably cheated too." Kelly's voice got stronger. "I trusted you. I invited you into my life. And you laughed at me." "Kelly, please," Diana begged. Kelly shook her head. "I saw the texts. The group chat you never included me in. I was entertainment to you." I stood. "The test is over. 24 hours. You failed every measure." I laid copies of their folders on the coffee table. Your husbands, your employers, the authorities. They all have what they need now. What happens next is between you and them. You destroyed our lives. Colleen's voice broke. "No, you destroyed your own lives. I just made sure everyone else knew about it." I walked to the door and opened it. Leave our home. Leave our lives. Don't contact Kelly ever again. This isn't over, Colleen said through tears. Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet. Kelly stood beside me. United. They left, one by one, devastated. After the door closed, Kelly leaned against it. That was brutal. They earned it. Long pause. Then, quietly, I know. The next few days brought updates. Tom Pearson called to thank me for the information. I would have never known, he said. My daughter deserves better. Jeremy Cole's girlfriend sent a text. Thank you. I needed to know. Melissa's pharmacy made the local news. Small article about prescription drug diversion investigations. Kelly blocked 14 different numbers as Colleen kept trying to reach her from new phones. 2 weeks later, Kelly and I went to breakfast at Mesh on Mass Avenue, the same place where Colleen had set her first trap. We sat at the same table where I'd confronted her. This feels different now, Kelly said. Same place, different context. I reached across the table and took her hand. No drama, no tests, just us. Do you regret any of it? No. Do you? I regret letting them into our lives in the first place. She squeezed my hand. But not what happened after. They needed to be stopped. And they were. So what did we learn from all this? I smiled. That measuring someone else is easy. Measuring up yourself is hard. That's cold. That's accurate. She laughed. A real laugh. First one in weeks. No more gym friends. No more friends who thrive on drama. I corrected. But good friends? The right kind of friends? Those are always welcome. How will I know the difference? Trust me. After what we just went through, you'll know. 3 months later, life had returned to normal. Better than normal. Colleen's divorce was finalized. She'd lost most of her assets in the settlement. Last I heard, she was working retail and living in an apartment. Diana had weakened custody of Lily. She was in Gamblers Anonymous, actually getting help. Tom reported she was making progress, trying to rebuild trust. The college fund had been replenished from the sale of their house. Melissa had taken a plea deal. Probation, community service, her dental hygiene license permanently revoked. She was working at a call center. Dr. Hibbert and the others had also been charged. Kelly had new friends now. From work. Properly vetted. No drama. No games. No toxic behavior. And me? I still did background checks on everyone new in our lives. Professional habit. Kelly didn't mind anymore. She understood. We were planning a trip to celebrate our anniversary. 8 years of marriage. Stronger now than ever before. Kelly brought it up one evening while we were making dinner. They were testing a husband for 48 hours. They were, I agreed. But by the next morning, I was already begging them to stop. After I saw what they tried with Colleen at that restaurant. You did. And they refused. She smiled. Because you weren't just being tested. You were measuring them. I measure risk for a living, I said. It's what I do. And they didn't measure up. No, they didn't. Kelly kissed me. I love that you protect us. Even from my bad choices and friends. That's my job. Later that night, I thought about Colleen's last words at the Rathskeller. This isn't over, she'd said. But it was over. It had been over from the moment they'd walked into my home and challenged someone who understood risk better than they ever could. They'd wanted to test my loyalty for 48 hours. Kelly begged them to stop by the next morning. But they refused. They were testing a husband. I measured everything else. And in the end, the only test that mattered was whether they could measure up to their own standards. They couldn't. I don't fail tests. I never have. But I do conduct them. And these 3 women learned the hardest way possible that when you measure someone else, you better hope your own numbers add up. Theirs didn't. Case closed. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.